The first time I did it, my legs trembled so much I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I don't know how I put up with it. Watching them kill someone like that.
1942 was coming to an end. What did people in Tokyo or elsewhere in Japan know about the way the war had been conducted in China? The Japanese government always announced their victories to drum rolls, but under their breath, people whispered that the war in China was going on forever, and that exactions on the local population had been committed. Who knew that Unit 731 had grown into a monster? Who knew that the army of Manchuria had unleashed its important stock of biological weapons on the Russians in Nominee, and later on the Chinese in Changde, Nanking, and Amoy? By 1942, with Tokyo bombed for the first time, and the Americans fully engaged in the war, more and more Japanese were receiving the red cards that meant they too were headed for combat. Train platforms were increasingly congested with soldiers headed to the front. Before heading to southern China to join the military hospital to which he had been assigned, the young doctor Kenyuasa had heard tell that Chinese prisoners were being used as guinea pigs for military training sessions in combat surgery. And in fact, vivisection was widespread in occupied China. Yuasa himself participated in 13 such sessions on living, if anesthetized, guinea pigs in his hospital in southern China.
I remember very clearly my first experience with vivisection. There were two men. One was about my height. He was about 30. Nice round cheeks, wore simple peasant clothes, hands tied behind his back, eyes glued to the ground like someone lost in thought. My first thought was that these two were probably communists, with whom Japan was at war, after all. The other also appeared to be a peasant. His hands were also tied behind him, but he wouldn't stop whimpering. He kept mumbling things I couldn't understand. When the director of the hospital, who was a lieutenant colonel, said, "Let's get started," the larger of the two calmly allowed himself to be led to the platform, and then he laid himself out on the table. I thought he would probably resist, but he didn't. He showed this incredible calm. And when we noticed this, everyone in the room suddenly got very quiet. Later, the military doctor standing next to me told me that, in his opinion, his behavior was proof of justifiable submission to Japanese power. That was the mentality at the time. For probably more than an hour, each of the military doctors took turns following the supervising surgeon's specific instructions. The nurses were also in training. Once the training session was finished, the military doctors and nurses left the room, and 5 new doctors came in and joined us with the help of aides to clean up the mess. The poor man was no longer breathing. The aide threw his remains into a hole. The hole was not close by, but I remember hearing somebody say, "No, not here, this one's already full, go further." And I said to myself that this must have already happened many times.
Kenyuasa also sent bacteria samples of particularly severe cases of typhoid and dysentery to Unit 731. Moreover, Commander Shiro Ishii came to visit his hospital.
The scariest part, which is revealing about the state of mind at the time, was that these operations were considered useful acts. We believed that they were necessary to the war effort, as we'd been told. And anyway, we weren't making good decisions. The orders always came from above. It was the same everywhere. We obeyed. Didn't think twice about it. Knew neither guilt nor remorse.
This attitude continued until the very closing moments of the war. In July 1945, when it was clear that all was lost, chemical weapons production in Hiroshima was halted because of fear of bombing. But Reiko Okada and the other girls from her class who had been forcefully recruited almost a year earlier continued helter-skelter to develop a new weapon. Reiko Okada sketched her memories of that time, when some 2,000 middle school boys and girls were obliged to produce enormous hot air balloons constructed of paper. These paper balloons were designed to take advantage of wind currents in the stratosphere to carry bombs across the Pacific to the American shore.
At the time, we were all sure that we'd soon be fighting in mainland Japan. Already, many islands had fallen. Attu, Saipan, Okinawa. There had been many casualties on those islands, so we all believed it'll soon be our turn. And then there was that song. Island where the bright fairies grow, the island of Saipan. This song recounts how many people died on those islands, and we clearly believed it would soon be our turn.
On the morning of August 6, 1945, Reiko Okada and her classmates had already arrived on the island when the atomic bomb exploded over Hiroshima. They remember hearing nothing, but did see a strange flash of light. On August 9th, Nagasaki was devastated by a second atomic explosion. One day earlier, on August 8th, the Soviet Union entered the war against Japan. Soviet troops were now rushing towards Manchuria.